One of the things I want to focus on in this video is assigning a rubric to score holistically the writing. So before we get to that, we have here what has become our essay. And it says, and this is at the beginning of last week, this was a thought question that was put on the stream in the Google Classroom. And the student was to read this at the beginning of the class, at the beginning of the Zoom meeting, and answer it with a simple answer, support, and explain. So, or answer, cite evidence, and explain very easily, and the specifics are there. You can zoom in on that. And that's our instructions. Just write an answer to this question, one reason, and one example to support that reason. And so that entailed the students, and the instructions were to look at this picture, and that was the picture that was part of the lesson. And so we're talking week 4, and then of course in week 5 things went a little different, and we all went online, but they were to look at that image and respond to it. And the way we did that, and the way we usually do it, is we start out the lesson with a brainstorm to get the students thinking about what they will eventually write about. So let me close this and bring over here. Where does all this come from? Well, it comes from the curriculum, and this is our curriculum here. And so we see that there was an essay on stating an opinion. Let's say, week 5. Let's say we were in week 5, and we start to read about Walt Whitman's America. And we compare and we contrast that to the way other poets see America. And the second one was Langston Hughes, and we read his poem. And his was assigned, so we had an assignment for that. So by the time the students get to the essay, they have had the brainstorming for this writing, and in the form of a question on the stream. And the brainstorming, because we don't have a whiteboard on which students to collaborate, we don't have a whiteboard. So what do? We improvise. And this is a program, and it's called Padlet. And what it allows the students to do is to look at a picture and comment. And what it allows us to do is have the whole class brainstorm at the same time, simply by getting the link and the students post their comments. So this right here is an image of the brainstorm that we did for this particular question that scaffolded, that tapped the background knowledge of what eventually would become the question that you see here. Do you believe the American dream is possible for some, but not all people? And students could comment on each other. If we go ahead and look at student answers, let's take a look at some of the answers. And we look at that. And did anybody reply? Let's find out. And we look at these. Some of them are missing. And we have that one. And a short reply. So now we get to the writing portion. So I'm looking here, and what I have been working on is this writing assignment. And again, it comes from the question in the stream. And there it is again. And in this case, this is a pre-writing. But we've already seen the question. So the pre-writing is going to take the form of a star pre-writing. So let me take a look at that. And this is a lesson that we have worked on. We look and we review again what is and what is not the prompt in a star essay. And this one is an authentic one from the State of Texas Star. Okay, and we go in through the steps of this quote, read it, think about it. It's not the prompt. Go to the next part right under the quote, read it, think about it. That's not the prompt. And my strategy in my class is to have the students turn this prompt and say, yes, this part here, this is the prompt. And in our strategies, we take that and we make it into a question, because that is the question that they're going to answer. That prompt is a task that they're going to answer. So, having done that part, the students then submit this as the pre-writing, and then we conference and we move on to edit a draft, to create a draft. So students will list here what they think would be evidence or what comes to mind, and whatever comes up with the most support, they're asked to use that as their reasons. And in some case, it's totally in favor of one side and not the other. Sometimes one side will be completely blank, and they'll say, okay, so it's better to dream big. So we move on to the next part. If you would like, you could go ahead and say, this came out, this is the pre-writing, and there's your assignment. Now, let us say that I go back here into the classwork. There it is assigned, the class is assigned. It appears in the stream. There's my assignment. Robert Diaz posted a new assignment. Now, say that the rubric wasn't going to cut it. Let's say that I wanted to simplify it, or for whatever reason I wanted to get rid of this assignment. I'm going to edit here, and I'm going to go here, and I can take this rubric out. Or I can delete the entire assignment. Okay, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go into my assignment, into the instructions, and this is where you can delete it. I'm going to delete it. So from my stream, I'm going to, this is the starter page. I'm going to go into classwork, and I want to assign this as an essay. I'm going to go to create, and I'm going to click on create assignment here. All right, and let's go ahead and paste my instructions. Remember, this comes from the earlier thought question that was on the stream. And I have here from the same stream on another window, I'm going to write Essay the American Dream. Now be careful here. If you forget to do this and you assign this assignment, as I've done several times, you don't get to go back and select all of the classes. So I'm going to click here, and before I go any further, before I forget, I'm going to click on, this is going to be an assignment. There's going to be 2 levels of this essay, but I'm going to assign them to both levels of classes, and I'm going to modify for each level. I'm going to select the classes for whom this assignment is to be given, and I'm going to click out, make sure that my classes are assigned. There's my points. Okay. I can choose to make it ungraded, and I could deal with the grading later on in Power School or your grade book of choice. I assign the due date. You don't have to give a due date. It won't appear in the stream, but I choose to recognize that by the end of the week, the 6 weeks will close, and I'm going to put that at the end of the week by midnight, which is probably when I will do my grades. Friday, April 10th, time is optional, but by midnight. And no problem if the students go over the deadline, you take it up with them in terms of points taken off. But in this case, we have a hard deadline, which is the grade window is going to close. So note here, This is where we get to the rubric. So I have my choice of creating a new rubric from scratch, and I've done that. That's what I did with the rubric that I will choose. I can import from Sheets, and what that does is if someone has prepared for you a Google spreadsheet, a Google sheet, which is a spreadsheet with the criteria or the boxes made, I have not done that because rubrics in Google Classroom have only just gotten out of beta. And what that means is it's not been used for a long time. This is a relatively new feature, and though you might see videos on YouTube explaining to you how to use them, keep in mind that those were many of those were from the time that this product was in beta form, which means it was in testing, and not everybody had access to it. And in fact, it came to the district only in at the beginning of March. So we are going to reuse a rubric. And by the way, I have to let you know that if your rubric doesn't appear in your class, you think, well, where did it go? Did it get deleted? Make sure you go through your classes and check to see where that rubric is in another class. Presumably this works if you are a co-teacher and you have not had this rubric in your class, but you wind up being a co-teacher for this class, and so the teacher should have access to this rubric. So I look down here and I've got a number of rubrics to choose from, more of a choice now that I've gone into my other class. And I'm going to choose this one here because this is the big enchilada. This is all of the persuasive essay, star rubric, all of the criteria made box by box, line by line. In fact, there are more boxes than the star rubric because it's explicitly broken down to where the thesis is. Well, I'll let you look at it. Preview. Okay. And you'll recognize these from the star rubric, but in fact there are more criteria because it was more explicitly broken down into further components. And you don't by any means have to get this elaborate, this complex. And in fact, you have a select and edit function that should say select and edit. It's mushed in there somehow. And you can go ahead and change the points. You can eliminate some of these excessive, if you think that they're excessive criteria, if you want to simplify it, if you want to create a new rubric and save it as a new rubric, you can do that. So I choose not to. I choose to go out and I'm going to get rid of this. This means discard the changes. If you made any changes, you're going to lose them. That's fine. And so I'm going to add the rubric as I had created it. And I had used it for this. Notice it's got that other essays title. So the hope is that this is going to get changed once it comes over. So I've looked at it, I've previewed it, I'm going to select it now. And you have your rubric, you look at it now, it automatically renames the rubric to the name of your new essay. All right, and then you can go ahead and further edit it here and look at this option. This is, I think, a relatively new option as well, since rubrics are new as well, to export it to a Google Sheet, and this makes it more portable. You can share it with other people. Let me get out of this. The rubric is now there, and I am going to add one more thing. What I'm going to add is I want the students to now turn in their pre-writing when they turn in this assignment. So there's going to be 2 assignments. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look on my Google Drive and I'm going to look for that assignment, and I can look at my drive and I share this drive with my other teachers. Look at my shared drives, and there's our English department, and it's broken down by classes. So I could keep going on and on, But then I'll get to a point where I'm looking at so many folders, I'm not able to immediately see it, and I might just want to go and say, oh, here's a recent option. Is it in my recents? There it is. There is my document for my pre-writing. You saw that earlier. And when we had the direct instruction as to how to go about and make a T-chart under the prompt. So now we have our pre-writing as part of the assignment. We have our points. We made sure that our classes were all selected. All the students are automatically chosen. Once you take your class, you have the option of changing the students. But in any case, we have our date, and one more option here. You can group these by topics. I like to do that because, as I had said before, because we have 6 weeks, when we look at our curriculum, there's a number of things that the curriculum has, and the curriculum also is grouped by topics in the 6 weeks. And in this case, I'm going to choose the one that is tied to the essential questions about the American dream. Okay. This function for originality reports has been discussed in an earlier PD, in a PLC. It's a great option. I'm limited, I believe, to 3 reports, and therefore I don't want to squander it on the first 3 that I put out. I'm not sure if there's an option to get more once you've used up 3, but this is what I'm seeing. You can go ahead and choose that, but I think it's a fantastic option because it does cut down on plagiarism and that sort of behavior. In any case, for now, I'm going to leave it off. Look over here. Don't forget to make the decision whether the student can further edit the file and in fact, let's do that. The option is make a copy for each student. And so the student can work on the pre-writing and then go on to the essay. Saved. Hopefully, if the computer goes out, if the power goes out, most of this is saved. I'm not sure how well that autosave works, but in any case, I'm going to go ahead and I've got my options, I've got my titles, I've got my rubric, I've got my pre-write, I've got my deadline, I've grouped it according to the essential question, and I chose not to do originality reports, and I'm going to go ahead and assign this to all of my classes, like that. Make sure before you leave this window that this is a done deal. You'll look at that, and it is still assigning depending on the speed of your internet, but you don't want to leave this window until that is assigned. There it is. All right, and it appears in the classwork stream. Assignment created, and you look at it and you say, I don't see it. Well, look over here. Remember that we grouped it under this topic. What does the American dream mean? Essay The American Dream, right there. And if you want to make sure that it has copied to all the other classes, you want to make sure it has copied to the other classes, just go ahead and check for each of them. Yes. And you'll see here there's 2 here because I had put one earlier as a test. So this is a good time to mention if you want to call back the assignment, and you go into the assignment. So I've posted this one. This one I want to get rid of. So I'm going to go here and go into instructions. Notice you have your 3 dots here where the points are. You click on that and you delete. Notice it tells you that co-teachers can see that, so that is a backup to say, hey, I put an assignment there and it disappeared. Do you know where it happened to go? And you have the idea that, I Didn't mean for that to happen. But in any case, some backup there. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. All right. And there's my assignment. I click on there, and your instructions will tell you and show you how it looks. Students should be able to simply click on here for the pre-write. And what does the pre-write look like? The pre-write has what has been covered in the direct instruction before. Remember that we had taken an assignment from the STAR, and we had gone over the pre-writing, in which we made a T-chart and we put our evidence or our reasons and chose to take one side over the other. That now appears here on Google Classroom in the form of a Google Doc. And since we're doing our work online, we ask the students to do their brainstorming, their pre-writing on a Google Doc. Once they do that, then they can move on to the essay and its attendant rubric, which is right here, and the student can see what the criteria is. Good luck. If there's any questions, please email me or message me right here on Google Classroom.